Hey everybody, it's Katie from Bobby Hair Studio. Thank you for joining me again for another one of my tutorials. Today we're going to be doing a full tutorial on how to take someone from a grown out bleach root onto more of a balayage, kind of softer, blonder, more rooted look like this. I do have some pretty strong wishes about my service today, but before we start, I just want to remind you guys to please remember to support me on TikTok and Instagram as well at Bobby Hair Studio. We'd really love that, as it's a free way to support our channel. And yeah, let's get started. So when my client wanted to go to a more rooted color, I wanted to go with TBH because TBH I find is a really great color for anything low lights or bringing down a blonde to more of their natural color, because it has so much hold in it and it's more of a demi rather than a semi. And so what I did today was I looked through the TBH colors and I wanted to pick something with a little bit of warmth and a little bit of cool to balance each other out, because the warmth is going to fill the hair and the cool is going to control that warmth, because you still need the warmth to hold in that color. Otherwise it looks mossy, it looks muddy, it washes out really weirdly, and the porosity is all over the place if you don't have any warm in your formula. So my formula that I chose today was 9-06 and 8-51. Those other three boxes over there, just ignore them. I didn't use them. I have a very simple setup. I just have foils, my color, a comb, and some clips. I'm going to do today's tutorial in sections of 3. So there's the very top mohawk section, and then there's the mid section, and then here is the bottom section. And the reason why I'm doing this is because there's different foiling types that I'm going to be doing, and these 3 sections help to make it a lot easier to see what I'm doing and how I'm doing this all. So I am doing horseshoe shaped sections all the way around. So basically, rather than working up, I'm working around the head from left to right and then right to left again, working all the way up so that everything's very symmetrical. Because with a job like this, you can tell when there's more dark on one side than there is another. The way that I've done my foiling for this whole bottom section is I've done really large slices. So this is creating a lot of dimension. And the way that I've done my slices is I've done the ones that are going all the way down to the ends. Any of the low light that's going all the way down to the ends, I'm not back combing it because I don't need to back comb it. I'm going from roots to tips, low lighting the whole thing. Because she doesn't want an ombre, she wants a balayage. So she still wants a little bit of that low light down at the ends of her hair. Then any piece that I want to keep some blonde at the ends, I'm back combing and then painting the color onto the back combed area and feathering down beyond that as much as I can, because it is very hard to feather when you're feathering with color, because color saturates entirely wherever it's placed. It doesn't have a fade and it doesn't just kind of process wherever you put only kind of like a little bit of saturation. It just kind of goes everywhere. So if you get any patchiness, you're gonna see it with this type of thing. Another thing that I did here is that you'll notice that some of my pieces that I take are going to be split in half after I weave them. So I weave the top half out. That half is going to be the blonder half, and the bottom half is going to be fully low lighted all the way down. So of course those pieces were easy because I just wanted to make sure that any piece that was low lighted was fully saturated. That's the easy part. The really hard part is making sure that you saturate and blend those pieces that have the back combing in them. Now there is 3 different methods that I use around this whole head. So I actually have lots of wishes today, which is against my own rules. I know that, but I do want to inform you guys as much as possible when I do these tutorials, because I still learn something new every time I do someone's hair. Nobody is ever 100% perfect at hair. Everybody should constantly be trying to learn from their own mistakes and mess ups and things that they can fix. So reiterating, the bottom is basically really chunky foils or slices, and this gets us a lot of dimension. And that's what I really liked about how I did this service, is I still kept the dimension in the bottom of her hair, but the top of her hair has a really soft blend, and you'll see a different type of foiling that I do up there. So, stick around. But something that I could have done is to get a softer blend everywhere is I could have done the foiling that I did up on her mohawk section everywhere. But the reason why I didn't is because that doesn't give us dimension. It just gives us softness. So that is something that's kind of a wish, but it's not really a wish. I don't know. I don't know how I would have done this better. I think I'm still happy with the service. My one big wish I'll talk about later, because I want you guys to see the results on why I wish what I wish. But Something that I am really happy with is my horseshoe sectioning, and that I work from the bottom. I do the full round of the head. I go from left to right or right to left before I skip up another section, because I want to make sure that everything's really symmetrical, especially when you're taking someone from something so solid to something so dimensional. You don't want to do the whole left side before you do the right side, because then you're going to have uneven color. Now I'm doing my middle section, which has to be the transitionary section between these really, really chunky foils and the really soft foils up at the top, because it's going to look super weird if you don't have any transitions in between these two foil types. So what I'm doing is I am doing some slices, I am doing some weaves, and the weaves that I'm doing are more of a medium chunky weave rather than a super chunky weave. And that's because my top section is going to be more medium weaves. Also, to keep in mind, I am doing really, really chunky sections because my client has naturally level 7.5 to level 8 hair, and her blonde is going to be toned down to a level 9. So she has very, very low contrast, which means if I want to see any of that contrast, my sections have to be massive in order to actually pick out pieces that are dark versus pieces that are light. If your client has a much higher contrast of hair, let's just say they're a level 4 and they have level 9, 10 blonde, you're going to want to take smaller pieces. Don't baby light it, don't baby weave it if you want to see any contrast, but maybe take smaller foil sections or smaller slices, thinner slices, anything to make it smaller, but you can still see some of that contrast. Because remember, the lower the contrast is between the colors, the more dimension you need to see them. Now we're going to be starting with the front, and this is how I section basically the whole head, but it's a different way of weaving. So I didn't just take a piece and then weaved. What I did was I grabbed the section as a whole and took my foiling comb and weaved a little bit out of that section rather than taking a straight out square. I'm going to show you a little bit closer up in just a moment. So here is where I crop the video even closer. So I'm not even taking a straight across section and then weaving out of that. I'm weaving out of my actual large piece of hair, and I'm taking little foils and just slapping them underneath, and I'm just trying to feather as softly as I can, all different lengths. And what this actually does is it creates a really, really soft blend. And of course, this blend is so soft that you won't really be able to tell the difference between the two colors, but that's what I'm going for on top, because I don't want to risk any patchiness or any pieces that you can see the difference, or if there's any little lines or any little patches that the color didn't fully saturate in. This helps to prevent that, but it does get a very low contrast look. But of course it is really nice and soft. So we really liked how this area turned out, and you'll get to see later. But I'm not even wasting my time with folding up foils all the time. I'm placing a new foil in between every two. I'm slapping down these pieces, giving them a little coating, a little feathering with the color, and I'm trying to go down different lengths with each piece so that I don't have just a hard root going down to one single length, which is what she currently has. So this is a really fast technique on how to get low lights in all over the top, and honestly, if I could change something, I'd probably do this all over the whole head. Even though that means less contrast, it means more blend, and this was a much easier and faster way to apply the foils than what I was doing beforehand. I feel like the way I'm describing this doesn't make sense, but me showing it to you should at least make some sense. Now, if you were also paying super close attention to how I was foiling, the further I went back, the chunkier my pieces got, so that I had a really, really soft blend up in the front, and then towards the back, I started getting a little bit chunkier. Now I've flipped her over. I'm starting from the crown of her head, and I'm putting in some full low lights all the way down to the ends just to transition her from her middle section to the top. And then I'm going to be taking some of these pieces and I'm going to be doing chunkier low lights the same way I did the front ones, just with bigger pieces. And this is going to be a much faster foiling service than the whole rest of the head. I don't even know why I didn't do this everywhere, but this was something that I really liked about my final result. Something I'm also doing with her entire mohawk section is I'm not bringing down any of her foils all the way down, except for those couple foils that were in the crown area to transition. All of these foils are going to be blonde at the very ends because we want to have still like a lot of blonde left in her hair, but really far down, really soft. She showed me some really low lighted photos of hair, so I didn't feel scared about like overdoing it. Sometimes when you have a blonde who says, I want to go darker, it's best to err on the side of keeping them blonder. But basically all the photos she showed me were essentially 90% of the hair was the level 8 and only 10% of the hair was the level 10, 9, 10. So I still kept her a lot blonder than what she had showed me, because I think it was going to be kind of a scary result for her to go from so light to, in her mind, so dark. And she was really happy with the result. But this is why up on the top, I just did soft feathering down into these little highlight, low light pieces, because I wanted to keep all the ends solidly blonde. So then I mixed a glaze of 811 and 6 volume. And then I mixed a toner for the blonde, which was 9.5-4 and 9.65 mixed with 6 volume. I'm starting with the blonde toner, which was the 9.5-4 and the 9.65, which is a beige and then like a chocolate gold color. And I'm placing that all over her hair to mix into those blonde areas that hadn't been touched with a low light yet. And it's important that I'm doing this before I rinse out my low light, because then I can kind of mush the two colors together a little bit, and that creates a little bit more blend as well. So I'm really happy that I did this rather than rinsing out my low light first, because as you can see, I'm applying it all the way to the roots and smushing it down, and that creates a little extra blend as well. Then I am putting on, after I've rinsed everything out, I am putting on my all over glaze of the 8-11, which is a very cool tone. And I'm trying to mostly put it on that low lit area, but it is going to be touching some of those highlights. There's no way to avoid it, but I'm trying to cool down the low lights that I put in because my formula didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So now that we've dried her and curled her, I'm brushing out her curls, and you can see kind of her end result. I'm going to show you some more photos and videos at the end while I go over my 2 stars and a wish. But overall, I think her placement of her color was really beautiful. There was a little piece or two underneath that the saturation didn't get fully through up near where I backcombed, so that's obviously something I would change. But now we're going to do 2 stars and a wish. This is a self-critiquing technique that I've used since my first year out of hair school. It is utilized in teaching every one of my new stylists and apprentices, and I still use it on myself to this day. The rules to 2 stars and a wish are: this is a positive environment. There is no I hate it or I sucked at language used. It's constructive criticism only. 2 stars always, no less. 1 wish only, no more. Maybe except for today. This also has to be said out loud to a mentor to discuss and learn new techniques that can help to improve your skills. And also you have to state not only the what, but the why and the how to analyze how we can grow. This is so important. Please keep this in mind for your own growth in your own careers. So for my 2 stars, my first star is how beautiful this blend turned out. I think it's a really beautiful blend, mostly because that top section that I placed. The underneath, you can see more of those PC lowlights, which I think are gorgeous as well. But I think what I would have changed about the way that I foiled is I would do more of the hair in the way that I foiled the top row and less of those piecier low lights that ended up being highlights at the bottom. I would just do whatever I do a low light, just do a slice all the way down and do maybe a really thin slice. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I also love the formula of my blonde. The beige, the chocolate, and the gold all came together really well to create a really soft honey blonde. Now my wish is that I would have formulated her low light with a lot more ash. I was really freaked out about it going too muddy or too patchy or too mossy looking, but she did end up with a warmer color than expected. She ended up with almost like slightly gingery. So we are going to be adjusting that when she comes in next. I'm going to be placing more ash in her formula by using maybe a 7-19 mixed with a 9-16. I'm not really sure. Anyways, that's my service. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please remember to like and comment below what your thoughts are. Have a great day, guys. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Bobby Hair Studio and join us next time for our next tutorial.